And when we're used to playing in clubs and stuff, and we're not looking at each other when we're playing, we're looking at the audience. So the whole scene just kind of felt very didn't feel very authentic. So one of us suggested, I think it was the sax player Scott Angst. He said, "Why don't we just do this live? It'll feel much more natural." So I said, "Yeah, let's do it."
Hey everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com, and welcome to another episode of Around Town. Today we've got Sam Robinson on, trumpeter. I think you've seen him on this show maybe about a year ago or so, if I'm correct, but I am happy to have him back on. Of course, he's got a new recording out called Be With Me, live at the Eastgate Cafe in Oak Park, the wonderful club that's now closed, but luckily he recorded before they closed. So Sam, how are you? Great to see you again, and congratulations on the new recording.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to see you again. I had a great time when we did our interview the first time, so I was happy to meet up with you again. Yeah, everything's going well. Thanks for asking.
Well, and you're always playing, and you're also always recording, apparently. So you've got this new. Yeah, well, you've got this new recording out, Be With Me, and I love the fact that it's live. So it was done live at the Eastgate Club, and there's something about going in the studio and making sure things sound perfect and really dialing in compositions and dialing in everything. There's another thing to hear that live performance and hear the energy and hear the interaction without a bunch of takes. It's just like, here it is.
That was it.
Yeah, and for you, when you went through this whole recording process, did you even expect to record it? Because I know some people just go in and they record it and they say, well, let's see what we get, and if it works out, great. I mean, is that kind of what happened, or did you plan it out more?
It was a weird process. So the first album we did in the studio.
Yep.
And so we get back in the studio to do the second one, and it just felt really weird. We're all looking at each other, and when we're used to playing in clubs and stuff, and we're not looking at each other when we're playing, we're looking at the audience. So the whole scene just kind of felt very didn't feel very authentic. So one of us suggested, I think it was the sax player Scott Angst. He said, "Why don't we just do this live? It'll feel much more natural." So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." Yeah. And so I said, "All right, where have we been playing a lot over this past year?" "Oh, the Eastgate." Because they had a jam session outdoors and it was kind of COVID friendly and everything. So I knew the owners and they were they're great people. So we said, "Yeah, let's just record it live at the Eastgate." So that's how it happened. And weird thing, a few weeks before, my daughter had a little photo shoot somewhere out in Aurora, and the guy who did the photo shoot also happened to do audio. So I said, "Oh, by chance, are you free to record? You want to record a jazz album?" He said, "Sure." So he shows up with some mics and some equipment, and there it is.
Well, it sounds great. I mean, the Eastgate Cafe was a smaller little venue, which obviously helped a lot, probably as far as the recording process and everything. Right. But it sounds great, and it sounds tight, And so, talk a little bit about who are the players on there, because I know a lot of people know a lot of the players that are on there.
Yeah, great lineup. A lot of guys from the first album. Scott Angst on tenor. I love playing with him. I think I met him like in 2015 at the Gallery Cabaret.
Oh yeah.
Leonard Stroud, and we play there on Mondays from time to time. Leonard Stroud, I met him on the South Side. I think it was Jimmy's Woodlawn Tap a number of years back, and I really love playing with him. Gabriel Dotku, fantastic guitar player, and John Sutton.
Oh yeah,
plays all over Chicago. Great bassist. So yeah, those guys and we'd been playing for a while, and I think we had only had one rehearsal where we just went down some heads, some melodies and stuff, but the rest of the rehearsal was just playing other gigs. Yeah, so that's just kind of the way we've ended up doing things. I didn't really plan it like that, but it's just kind of a natural live experience. We don't really rehearse a lot. We just and I hope we can hide that fact on the album, but we just get together and play. So yeah.
That's sometimes that's the best medicine. I think that a lot of people, when they're younger, they should get together and rehearse a lot. But when you've got really experienced professionals, first of all, it's pretty difficult to get everybody together and rehearse. And then to be able to put something out and have it be tight, it's that interaction stuff that really is kind of the key. So talk a little bit about the recording. Talk about what what tunes are on the recording.
Okay.
And I know there's maybe a standard or two, but also there's some compositions on there that you wrote, I assume.
Yeah. So the first album was kind of a standards album. And then so the next album I wanted to have a few more originals on there. So the first one's called Sam's Dig. It's basically a contrafact, a different melody over the changes of Dig, which is basically Sweet Georgia Brown.
Yep.
So I wrote a little tune over that. I think I actually wrote it in college. And then the next one is a fast blues called Game Set Match, because I play tennis. And the third one is the title track, Be With Me. And that was just kind of a weird process because I never really charted most of these tunes. It was just kind of a melody that came to me, and it originally came to me in 12. But somehow we chopped off a beat and it went down to 11. So it's that odd meter thing.
Yeah.
And then part of it goes to 5, and then it goes back to 11, and then the solos are just over 1 chord in 5. So yeah, it just kind of worked out. I don't have a very, as you can tell, probably a formal process for composing. And then the one after that is one based on Dahoud, Clifford Brown's Dahoud,
Yep.
called Who Dat. I just kind of switched the syllables around. And then the standard Darn That Dream, the ballad. I've always loved playing that one. And then the last one, I actually charted it out and everything in pencil. I don't know if I have an official one. Scott's the composition guy, so he.
Oh,
he
okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Leia. It's just for my daughter Leia, and that's how we conclude the album, and it's also kind of a good tune to conclude a gig with.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that as well. It's a good time to introduce the band, tell everyone who they've been listening to.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, okay, so you're doing the Constellation on February 16th. Of course, Constellation, 3111 Northwestern Avenue, constellation-chicago.com. We'll link everything up down below. So that's going to be the quintet you're playing there. It's not necessarily an official release show, but you're going to be playing tunes from the recording, I assume.
Yeah, we're going to play some tunes from both albums. We've been working on some new stuff, some new standards. And we're gonna bring in a guest, a guy we've been working with recently, great trombone player named Josh Torrey.
Oh, okay.
Plays all over Chicago. He's the kind of guy, he'll play anything you put in front of him.
Yeah.
He's always jobbing. I call him the big jobber because I'm lucky to get him for a gig because he's always on a job. But he can play anything: weddings, jazz, big band, small group. So we're very excited to have him.
Oh, that's cool. And that's a nice little twist to the entire group, right? I mean,
absolutely.
To add that in. Also, Constellation is a really unique venue. And it's kind of a bigger venue. I mean, what is it, about 100 people, 125, 130 people over there? So, I mean, it's a nice little crowd coming in for that. And to hear you guys play live in there, the acoustics are an interesting acoustical vibe in there as well. Have you played there before?
I've never been. So it'll be a first time thing. I've heard stuff that was done live there.
Yeah.
But the acoustics seem good to me. I think Marquise Hill had a release there or something. Yeah. I think that's what I heard.
There's a lot of great groups have been in there, ECM artists and stuff that I've promoted through the show and everything else. I mean, yeah, it's a great venue. So, all right, so that's on February 16th at Constellation, and then February 18th, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Le Piano, and you play there a couple of times a month. It's almost like you're steady, right? And you're playing with Chad Willett's trio.
Correct.
One of the owners, great guy. He's been keeping this thing alive over there since he opened it up I think about a year and a half before the pandemic, maybe 2 years before the pandemic, he got this open. And Le Piano right in Rogers Park, for those of you that don't know, 6970 North Glenwood Avenue in Chicago, lepianochicago.com. Talk about that, because that's like a regular gig for you, not necessarily with your own group, but you bring tunes in, I would assume, and you guys are playing, and they're all, that's an interesting, intimate room. It's a very cool vibe in there.
Yeah, very cool vibe, great venue, and as you said, Chad's doing a great job. I mean, he's packing them in there. It's also a restaurant, so people are eating, drinking, having a great time. So he brings in really good crowds. And yeah, we just play standards. Chad just called standards, and we've all been playing with each other for a while, so we just kind of all know the tunes, and we do 3 sets. So it's a long, fun evening. Yeah, I'm hurting the next day, but it's a long, fun evening. Yeah, a couple Saturdays a month,
Yep.
and I think I'm actually also there on February 5th, subbing for Des Ormeaux. He's a saxophone player. I split the Saturdays with,
Okay.
and I'm there this Sunday as well.
So let's just loop it back before I let you go here. So of course you got the new recording, Be With Me, live at Eastgate Cafe, recorded live there in Oak Park. It's available on Spotify, available on samrobinsonmusic.com.
Yep.
Real fast though, I'm always curious, since you wrote some of these compositions. I mean, do you have a way of starting a composition, or does a melody hit you or something and then you decide to write something down? Because you're playing so much, I don't know if there's a process you go through, or if all of a sudden you kind of are messing around with something and decide, you know what, that could be a tune.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was kind of thinking about that. Sometimes what happens is I'll notice when I'm soloing that I play some of the same stuff over and over and over again, and it's something I try to do less and less. Ideally you want to come up with something new. So I'll turn something that I'm playing over and over again into a tune. So that was kind of how, I was doing a lot of that with, if you listen to Be With Me, I do a lot of that, like when I solo or something like Sam's Dig, like some of those little bebop licks or something like that. Sometimes I find if I make a tune out of it, it'll kind of take that out of my soloing a little bit. So it'll open up some space for me to, try to do something original, more creative.
Well, so and playing those kind of like the same thing over and over when you're soloing, you must be doing it over like the changes to Dahoud or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how you ended up flipping things around and using those chord changes.
Exactly. Yeah, licks that I would play over a tune, I'll just write a new tune and call it something else.
Yeah.
With the same kind of figures I would play, normally. So, it's a way to kind of increase the vocabulary, maybe.
See, I mean, I'm just a drummer here, but
okay.
I'm not. I hear things every once in a while when I'm playing gigs. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I kid, but talking to a lot of different musicians and hearing their concept about composing, because I tried composing when I was in college and I decided that was a bad idea for my sake. And, but a lot of people have these processes and do that. But I think that's a great idea because, you play something, everybody falls into those changes, falls into those lines that they can play over the changes. But it's interesting. Then you actually thought through it and said, you know what if I just write a tune over these changes and use it? And by the way, for those of you that are listening and watching this show and don't know, a lot of the standards, a lot of the bebop tunes especially, are same changes. Different melodies over it. So I'm sure a lot of that had to do with them doing exactly what you did with your original compositions.
Yeah, maybe it's it's proved to be kind of the only technique I have for composing. I didn't study composing, so I do what I can.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, man, and I love the fact that you're recording stuff still and putting it out. And is this your second release? I think, right? Yeah. So, and the live recording thing, I told you, I love the live recording feel and the energy and all that stuff. So, all right, Be With Me live at Eastgate Cafe. Sam's going to be February 16th at Constellation, which is right up there on Northwestern Avenue, constellation-chicago.com. And then you can catch him a couple of Saturdays a month over at Le Piano, which is 6970 North Glenwood in Chicago, right there in Rogers Park. Sam, so good to catch up with you. Glad you were on the show, and congratulations, man. You're staying busy, and it's only February. It's only going to get busy
trying.
The weather gets warm.
I know. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for having me on. It was great. Always great to see you, and I'll see you again soon, I hope.
Absolutely. Maybe you'll even see me in person.
I'd love it.
I might get out there. All right.
Gig.
So also thanks guys for everybody for watching the show. As usual, as I always say, everything is at chicagojazz.com as far as Chicago Jazz information goes. And until next time, hopefully I will see you all somewhere out on the scene.